Awesome. Hello and welcome to RadEO, the fourth edition of our live stream, which currently has nobody listening to it, but that's not the point. The point is that we keep on going. RadEO is a podcast made by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Ross Drakes, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Rich Mulholland.
I like every time you say I'm joined today by my co-host. I know it's passive aggressive because of all the times that I miss. But it's great to be here as always. I love chatting to you. It's one of the highlights of my week. Just getting to actually, this entire podcast is an excuse for me to catch up with Ross and talk and other interesting people. So it's really, really great.
And our guest today is Miranda Naiman, who is the founder and MD of Empower. And you are speaking to us from which city are you currently sitting in, Miranda?
I'm in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. So on the East Coast.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
great to be here. So our first question is the same to every human being, and that is, give us your, I suppose, I'm not sure how badly COVID has affected your business. Give us your pre-COVID elevator pitch, and then we'll unpack your post-COVID elevator pitch.
Two separate podcasts, but yeah. Pre-COVID pitch would be we catalyze growth. Quite simply. So we help people grow, organizations grow, and the economy grow. We do this through talent, insight, and advisory services. And we work with youth quite a lot across Tanzania and other East African countries as well. Post-COVID, still figuring it out. We think that we're still catalyzing growth, but I feel like we're trying to just, stay above water at this point. We are looking at how we can take some of our services, because we were very people-oriented, how we can make them more digital. So we've invested in tech, online learning platforms, marketplaces, so looking at e-commerce as well, and just seeing how we can pivot a little bit and use tech with that.
Because obviously growth is a very big problem for people at the moment, right? It's right. Probably the problem you solve may be more necessary now than it was 3 months ago. So that's technically a good sign for an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think that is a good sign. Although, if I can speak from the Tanzanian context, there are some industries that are growing even during COVID and need our services and need people to be upskilled, need kind of talent mapping and planning for the future. We don't have lockdown in Tanzania, so it's almost business as usual. And actually, we're officially opening up the country on Sunday. So that's a good sign. We'll see where it goes.
How do you mean opening up? For all external travel, or what was closed if you didn't have a lockdown?
The borders were closed. So there was an announcement that, foreign visitors are welcome. We're open for tourism. We're open for business, essentially. Clubs and bars and restaurants will be opening from Sunday onwards. So I think that could, give the economy a little boost. It's been a challenging time.
So can I ask you, you talked about talent mapping, and you're obviously putting people into these organizations to help them grow. How has that changed? Like, what has changed, like, sort of before this and after this? Like, how has the talent that people are looking for changed? Like, what is that shift happened in your world?
So I think a key shift that we have seen is that a lot of the content is more localized now. So where there was this trend of expatriate talent in town, it's now becoming more localized. So looking for Tanzanians, either in the diaspora or within the country, placing them in more senior roles. So we're seeing that positive trend. So that's quite good. But on the flip side, decision making is really slow. Nobody's willing to take the risk and really bite the bullet and onboard somebody or invest in development and training and so on. So it's tough to get buy-in. But once you have a good relationship with clients and they trust you and they see you as an advisor and an organization that's helping them to grow and boost the bottom line, it does help.
So I mean, I can echo that. So at Nice Work, I think we've done more proposals in this period than we have, in the last 6 months. But we're just finding that a huge barrier is actually just, it's that getting people to take that last step has become such a challenge and such a barrier. Like, what are you doing to build that trust? How are you getting people to make that final commitment?
Yeah, it's a pretty similar picture here. I'm finding that just genuinely connecting with clients, calling just to see how they're doing. If there's anything you can do to support them. Often clients will give you business because they want to be able to support a Tanzanian local business. So they'll find something and they'll give you bits and pieces, but just building on the relationship that you already have. So when we had the first confirmed case in Tanzania, it's as if everything just went downhill. It was email upon email of cancelled projects, and we do a lot of consulting as well. Everything was cancelled. So we kind of created almost a call center, got all the management team together, and we were on the phone and just calling people like, how are you? What's going on? Are you working agile? What can we do? Can we still take the program that we were working with now and see how we can take it online, and just, keep talking and communicating.
Have you had to take any risks in your business? I found that this was a great opportunity because for the first time in 23 years, if I messed up my business, it wouldn't be my fault. So I was able to actually try things that I didn't try before, that maybe I was a bit afraid to. Has there been any kind of Dutch courage that has given you to go out there and try new things and explore new ways of doing things, solve new problems?
For sure. I mean, we don't have much choice, so we have been pushed out of the box a little bit. We wouldn't usually launch 4 products at the same time, but that is happening next week for us. Wow. We have also taken a huge risk financially, I think, where we'd staggered out payments for tech development, which is being done overseas. We have now sunk quite a lot of our revenue or reserves into building a platform that is far more sustainable and further reaching, so that we can use it outside of Tanzania as well. So I think just we're risking brand confusion, people not quite understanding what it is that we do anymore. I think we're risking taking financial risks, and just with the team as well. We've had to scale down. We haven't lost any members of the team, but we have shifted some members onto part-time and timesheets and counting hours. So risks all around, to be honest.
Yeah.
And what is the upside of that look like? So if it all pans out to you, how does your business going to be different once it's all played out? If it
all turns out, I think we'll be saying thank you, COVID. And just in terms of the effects, not so much, of course, the health, absolutely devastating, but with regards to this opportunity where a lot of people have gone into hiding and are not willing to take risks, we've decided to swing totally the other way. It would mean when we come back to some form of normal, we have new revenue streams. We will have diversified. We will have a platform that is operational that I feel we were kind of sleeping on before. And we will have done our heavy investment, and it will all be about, marketing and making sure that we get a good uptake from moving from B2B to B2C.
We had an event the other day with an EO member from Canada, and he spoke about atomic adjacency, one-step adjacency. Right. And what I liked about it is I felt like, and I'd never had a term for it, but he said, instead of pivoting, how can you do something that everything that your clients already trust you for, but just do a tiny bit more, go a tiny bit adjacent. So it's not like we're a presentation company, now we're making masks. And I don't mean that facetiously. I'm genuinely saying it wasn't like a pivot. Right. It was... we were a presentation company running big conferences, and now we're helping people do that online. That atomic level of adjacency meant that we arrived in an area we had no experience in, with a lot of credibility that we technically didn't deserve. And if anything, I found that it's probably made our brand message clearer at this time. How do you two feel about that in terms of using this as a chance to refine and clarify your message? Because Miranda, you say you got these 4 new products and it could be brand confusion, but maybe this is helping you narrow it down. I don't know. For us, it's really helped us narrow down. We're actually taking away things and creating new things that are focused.
Okay, I hear you. I mean, that's an interesting perspective and different way of looking at things. Yes, we risk brand confusion, but as I said before, if things go well, we have been forced to move faster, more strategically, and with intent. So if things go well, which I do believe they will, we're entrepreneurs, we take calculated risks, I think we'll be in a good space. There are certain
more agile business.
Yeah, we never thought we could operate in this way, and it's amazing what you can accomplish when forced and backed into a corner. So just even our team building, we do a lot of team building and retreats for a lot of the big corporates. how can we now take that to an online model and still deliver the same quality of service that we had built a reputation for, still engage people, still have a lot of fun. So yeah, we're finding our way.
Yeah, awesome.
I mean, I totally think this is true. Like, I would say the biggest take out of this for me is old patterns of thinking have been challenged, and because you've challenged them, the new opportunities have sort of arisen. Like we've conceived of a product which we haven't built yet, which we already have a client who wants to buy 200 or 300 of them. Like it doesn't even exist yet, but it's all of our, like you say, all of our history has built up to this moment, and now we have to do something differently.
Because there's a halo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
People trust you for X. They may not
Right.
trust you for ABC, but if they trust you for X, they'll trust you W, Z, Y. You know, you're in that space, and I think that's kind of where it's been for us.
Absolutely. I think as you say, as long as you've got a positive reputation for delivering quality, people will try you out in these new times if you've got a new product. So we do have confidence in that as well. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I would love to update you later on, a couple of months' time. But it's also the mindset as well. I was talking to the team earlier today. We had an end of week huddle. You know, there are some people who've really embraced this change, and they're hustlers, natural born hustlers, looking for new business, generating revenue. And there are others that are quite happy to just, you know, wait for things to go back to normal. And it's hammering home that message that things will never go back to normal. This is the new normal, and things will never be the same as they were. So if you have that mindset of March 2020, you'll end up redundant in some way.
Totally.
So,
I've been using the term forward to normal.
Forward to normal.
Yeah,
Like
we can't
that.
go back to normal. We want to go forward to normal. The normal that we're heading towards is going to be, you know, yes, we want a normalization, but I certainly don't want to go back to,
Right.
For me, back is dead. Like that was the way we used to live and work. I want to go forward to normal. You know, I do want it to normalize, but I want it to be a destination, not a retreat.
Right. And thinking about all these tools that we use with EO, like Zoom. I was introduced to Zoom through EO, and now it's an absolute staple. And we've, you know, taken on the largest package so that we can use it for everything we're doing. How are we forced to kind of explore and save time as well, have less meetings? And yeah, it's got a lot of positive upsides to it.
You know, it's a very real advantage. It's maybe an unspoken about advantage that EO leaders had, is that, you know, people in EO leadership have been using a tool like Zoom for so long that we've almost taken it for granted.
Totally.
Whereas actually, you know, for a lot of people, they were just kind of coming to this for the first time during this crisis.
I mean, sorry, go on, Ross.
Oh no, I think this is a good segue into, you know, a lot of the questions we've been asking people are, what are the habits that you had that you want to leave behind? And what are the new habits that you formed that you think will carry you in good stead in the future?
Good question. I think one of the things that I will carry forward is just being far more intentional with my time. I used to run all over the city, going for client meetings that really weren't necessary. Sometimes, I mean, I'm not devaluing the concept of sitting face to face with the client. It's needed, and you do need to build that relationship, but we're getting along without it now. How can we save time by perhaps taking things to online, platforms? So that's one thing, better use of time. And second, it is the recognition that the team is able to organize themselves and manage themselves and self-lead far better than I probably gave them credit for beforehand. That we, as a group of individuals, have adjusted to this new way of working and being able to manage your tasks on a more micro level. So those are two things that I think I would change. That as well, some of the products that we've come up with now, that they would stick even though some of the older products would come back when we would be allowed to do so. So now having more variety, I think, is another plus and something that I would stick to as well.
What are those products?
So, for example, we used to do huge multiple day staff retreats. So take away, a UN agency's team of 200 people and train them, entertain them, run team building workshops and strategy and everything in between with excursions. So now we're obviously limited that the organizations are not able to take those kinds of trips. So we've taken some portions of that online. So we're able to deliver the learning components, the team building, and the strategy, but it's not face to face. So now we will be able to offer a company, do you want this virtually or do you want it face to face? So I think having those options as well that we didn't think about before could be a plus, particularly with virtual teams where we're working with perhaps heads of organizations across the continent that want to save money on travel.
And what are some of the things, by taking something like a strategy session, which generally works well in a room where you can kind of read body language and the facilitator has more control and people can have those sideline conversations. What are some of the things you've seen in those taking it digitally that's better or worse, and how did you overcome them?
It's far more difficult to manage energy and read the room, as you said. It's just about, I think, having very strong or strict ground rules. So when you are having a session, for people to know that they need to be on camera, need to be focused, and regular breaks, using tools that you have to the full extent. So being able to poll and break out rooms and ask questions and making sure it's engaging and participatory. Sessions can't be as long. So where you may have had a full day workshop, you want to split that into 4 bits perhaps. So it gives people that time to digest. So adapting things that way and just being really mindful that it's difficult to sit in front of a screen for more than an hour, to be honest.
Yeah, I found that it's easier if it's interactive, but a lot harder if you're just audience, to stay focused. But I was watching a video, I think it's for the platform On24 the other day, and the guy was challenging and he was saying, actually, the digital body language that is given up in terms of the data that you get from online events is actually quite superior. Now, not for maybe the interactions that you were discussing, but he was saying, now when did they attend? Did they attend live? How engaged were they? How often did they comment? Did they engage with the polls? You can have maybe anonymous or non-anonymous polling, so you can actually get sentiment analysis. So now, instead of you just knowing Ross was there, you now know Ross was there, he interacted like this, this is how engaged he was, this is how much they chatted. So you can actually read some of these digital body language in a better way than you perhaps could have in other ways for regular shows. I know it's not an exact science, but I do think it's something that's quite interesting as a potential positive side to all of this.
I agree. The downside is, though, that people can log in. So particularly with the webinars, you can log in, just mute, turn off your camera, and you could be logged as being there, but you're not engaged. But I get you with the polls and so on.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's what you would get from that. You would learn that this person didn't engage, didn't chat, didn't turn on their mic, didn't do these things.
Right.
It's an interesting tool called, do you ever use Jitsi? It's an alternative to Zoom. Okay, so it does many of the same things Zoom does, but what it does by default is it tells you, it gives you a breakdown of what percentage everybody has spoken in an interaction. Okay. So you can look at your attendees and say, Miranda, you've already spoken 1 minute the whole time we've been here, and you can actually see it in real time, and everybody in the room can see a real-time percentage of chat.
Okay, that's interesting.
I feel like this is an opportunity to call out all of those people that come onto a meeting and 6 people are in the meeting and 2 of them have their cameras off. I feel like that's the same thing as rocking up at a meeting without pants on or something. It's like you've not fully participated in the meeting, or you at the meeting but you're talking on your phones to somebody else. Right. It feels terrible.
Yeah, we've to me, it's a ground rule, right? Obviously, cameras must be on at all time. We can't say it to our customers so easily, but if we were doing a session, we don't do the same thing Miranda does, but if we did do something like that, I guess you can probably insist on your participants.
Right. Yeah. I watched the facilitator do that very well last week. It was, there was a session called How to Communicate with Crappy People by EOS Saudi Arabia. Very useful. But the facilitator logged in. It was during iftar, so people were breaking their fast and they were not going to put on the cameras. And he was like, I'm not going to run this session unless everyone turns on their cameras. I need everyone's engagement. And for a little while, it was just silence. Everyone's camera was on. And then one by one, they started flickering. But he managed to capture, 50 Saudis and a couple of us outliers as well, on this webinar, getting them to poll into breakout rooms, presenting all in an hour. I was thoroughly impressed.
That's amazing. Who was that? Is
That's
it
the
an EO
thing.
member?
He's not an EO member. I don't remember his name. That's the only thing. I was so miffed by the way he managed to, engage the whole team. I'll get his name for you. His name, though. Yeah.
Awesome.
Remember the topic.
Yeah, it's a great subject line.
Right? Yeah. Very catchy. Very catchy.
So I just want to circle back. One of the things she said was how your team is able to self-lead better. Have you seen kind of any patterns or anything like interesting in who was able to self-lead, and what do you think you were doing that was stopping them from doing it beforehand?
I think there are some people who naturally thrive under pressure and knowing that they need to innovate and find ways of making themselves relevant. They actually get a bit of a rush from it. So there are some individuals in the team that have stepped up in that way just because it's part of their personality. There are others who've taken things in their stride. They're not naturally wired that way, but they have adjusted and absorbed the fact that if we don't shift the way we do business, we could cease to exist. And so they've started to be more disciplined, and morning check-ins and huddles, end-of-day huddles, using Microsoft Teams and just making sure everything is really well documented and files are in the right place. I mean, we weren't that organized before, I can openly admit. And being able to have their own side meetings without being asked. So comms team, have your own meeting, come back, feed in what is going to happen with this campaign. So I think, the majority of the team have taken it very positively. Of course, there are always some that have that kind of freeze response, which is, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to be supportive. And naturally, you find that they're not contributing on projects as much. These are the ones that I said is kind of sitting at home, waiting for things to go back to normal. So there are always a few, and they're great people, and we're, performing very well pre-COVID. But it's it's interesting to see the evolution and the growth in certain individuals in the team. And I hope that we can continue to foster that.
Do you wonder at all if there's and I was just curious when you were describing this, although I've seen a lot of the same, but I wonder, is there an upside to a complete lockdown? In that in South Africa, we were kind of forced. People didn't have the option of, it was so locked down that you had to figure your way around here. Whereas if it was a kind of half in, then you maybe not as committed to embracing this as I wonder if there was somewhat of a faster acceleration for people in South Africa to learn this way of working simply because there was no other option. And for us, we're not even sure when it can kind of go back to, at least, going back to offices in that way. So I wonder if there's anything to that. I'm not sure if there is, but if there's something to that, this has actually empowered us to learn more because it was simply, we had no other option.
For sure. I think there are pros and cons of both sides. You've been forced to figure things out. We had the option to continue as normal, even though the economy was taking a nosedive and there was no business. And so that reaction did come up from staff when we said there just isn't enough work for us all to be taking the risk of being in the office. We need to think of the health risk as well as the financial risk. And they were going, but we don't need to stay at home. There isn't a lockdown. So we had to make some tough decisions, but we had to feel our way. There's been no government support or any kind of stimulus programs for entrepreneurs or for businesses or for the private sector at all. No support for staff as well. So everybody has had to just figure things out. It's been great, being part of EO. I wonder what it's like being outside of a chapter and not having a group of people to talk to about, what they're doing with staff and hand around business continuity plans and just share experience. But are
you on a regular forum structure, or have you increased the amount of forums you have? We're on a regular, still monthly, but I know some people have gone to a weekly, shorter forum structure.
We are on a monthly. We're on a monthly at the moment, but with the board, we're doing every 2 weeks, I would say, and then we're doing a monthly town hall where all the members are coming on to the call.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's a cool idea.
It's pretty cool, actually. I did mention to Jed on the president's call, so you might see it coming soon.
I mean, I love some of this. Like, the thing that's excited me the most about this is these ideas that kind of just exploded out of necessity and kind of observing them. I'm very interested to ask both of you, like, we're sort of facing this point now that the initial shock has happened and passed. We're now starting to get back into it. Like, what do you see the next? Like, are you going back to the office full time? Like, how are you gonna, like, we all got into lockdown quite definitively and we made these hard decisions. Now it's like, how do we start easing back out of it? Have you guys done any thinking around the how to go back, how to normalize, for want of a better word?
So we're kind of going with demand, to be honest. So as the work increases, we're pulling more people back in. We have a learning space as well that's attached to our office. It's called Inspire Center. So it's got rooms that people rent for training and workshops, and a cafe and a public space. And people are kind of banging down the door wanting us to open it because there's no good coffee in the area. So it's based on demand. We feel it's a bit too soon to open up a cafe and public space. Cute cat. However, yeah, we are, as we get more projects in, he's climbing the ladder. That's insane.
Yeah.
As we get more projects in, we're ramping up the team. So we do have that benefit of kind of being as flexible as we want to be and building up as we need to.
And are you going to go back to normal, everyone back in the office full time? Like, have you thought about that sort of thing?
Eventually, I think we have a very strong kind of, I want to say, family community vibe at the office. A lot of the team members are dealing with kind of loneliness and isolation and, young professionals. I'm the oldest young person on the team, I should say. And a lot of them are living alone and don't have children and enjoy being in the space. It's a very comfortable and fun space. We invest a lot of time and energy and money into the people and making sure that we eat lunch together and we do yoga together and we socialize together. So I think there is a motivation to come back together and be a team and deliver as we used to. I don't think my team would agree to going to, being agile 90% of the time and meeting for a weekly town hall or something. I don't think they would want that. And I can understand.
And you, Rich?
No, so we changed it. We're simply not going back. And I mean, our office was built on our whole vibe of our office, but we've seen it now as a dramatically limiting factor because we've now started dealing with companies all over the world, right? So we're having meetings with companies all over, and I simply do not ever want anybody in my staff or any customer to feel like because they're geolocated closer to an office in Johannesburg that they're getting a better level of service. So we want to be a company that is remote first. I have got here, and I'll actually just show you, just so you can see, out of interest, kind of what we've said that we're going to be the kind of, let's say select window screen. Let me just see where this would be. Here we go. So let me just show you this for a second.
This is riveting listening, Rich.
I know, sorry, it's terrible. You're right. Basically, we've come up with 4 rules. So no coming or going. What we're thinking, because we can't get out of our rent, right? So that's the problem. We're stuck in our thing until next May. However, we're not opening the office for work. So nobody can come for work. If you would have your earphones on, then you must do it for home. We've said that we're turning the office into a clubhouse. No coming or going during rush hour. So you're not allowed to arrive at the office if you sat in traffic or leave if you're sitting in traffic. No production can be done there. So there's no time that we can come in and just sit and do your work. You must do that from somewhere else. No tables for one. So you only come to the office to interact. You don't come to the office to sit by yourself and do things. It's for interaction time. And the final rule is a 3 hours per day limit. So people are allowed to be at the office for 3 hours per day maximum. The idea is you come in, you schedule your brainstorms, you do your cool things you would like to do together. And even that, I'm still not sure if we'll allow. We may just actually build up a couple of studios. So if we're doing some events, we want some nice studio space, we'll use them there. But I simply don't ever want to go back to that. We're changing a whole model. We've picked a city and we're going to base our salaries on that city. It's somewhere in the US. And we're going to try and build the businesses that we set there.
Love it. That's really cool.
Well, we'll see.
I'm curious to know how the team have reacted to that. They're all for it. I mean, Clubhouse sounds cool.
Yeah, but even as I said, that like if it was up to me, the second that our lease is finished, the Clubhouse is gone. So
Right.
we will say that we'll be happy to meet a couple of times a week, and we'll spend some money, and we can go and meet for lunches and things like that. But we'll have a team, and again, so you said you have a family thing. My team is my team, and my family is my family. That's for us as a differentiation. This is the way we want to take the business, and to some degree, we have to make some decisions. Some people will have joined Missing Link because of the fireman's pole and the slide, and that is simply not the business we want to be anymore. And we want to get the guys excited about the kind of business we can build. Some people will not be as excited by that, but we can't hold back the progress of an organization because some staff members liked it the way it was. So, and I know it's going to sound like a very crass thing to say, but that simply wasn't a consideration for us. I have to build an organization that is forward facing and that can offer the best experience going forward for the people who work at it. And I can't allow that a comfort level of some people to hold us back from there. So it wasn't, other than my key leadership team, it wasn't a democratic decision.
Right. No, I hear you. Absolutely. I get that. I think maybe I've misrepresented the team a little bit, but yes, on our side, they perform better when they're together. That's the trend that I'm seeing. But I get what you're saying, Rich. It totally makes sense. Maybe it would be something that we consider in the future. I like the idea of being able to operate, with clients across the world. That's great.
I guess the thing that's exciting is that it's challenged a lot of those universal truths that were just held as the given. And it doesn't mean that all of those things are wrong. It just means that there's a potential alternative path that somebody could take. And it could be a hybrid. It could be all back in the office. It could be, Rich is on the other extreme, that no one's sitting together and everyone's spread across the world. And I think it's very interesting to see how organizations are going to get back to that. I'm super interested to watch our large corporate clients and see how they navigate this, because their DNA is very much set around these big
command and control.
Yeah. So how does that play out in a space like this when people realize? And Rich, I think you touched on something that some people are going to love being distributed. Other people are going to hate it. And that's going to be a very clear differentiator when you go looking for a job. You're going to be like, are you a distributed company? Are you not a distributed company? Because, that's your preference.
Well, and that's why... Sorry, Miranda, Carol.
I was going to say, on a personal note, I have enjoyed being home more. This is the most time that I've spent at home, the most engaged I've been in homeschooling with my son. So I think personally, I will be taking probably 2 days out of the office and 3 in. That's my preference. I wouldn't want to be fully agile. But yes, I plan on spending a bit more time at home.
What I like is the interesting challenge of culture and customer experience have been two of our biggest things that our company is known for. And we still want that to be absolutely true. But then by the easy way of solving for that was to have the kind of gimmicky office that our customers have a great time when they come, but it was a bit of a cheap trick. Whereas now we actually have to be a little bit more intellectually thoughtful around how do we create that. So now I have to say, well, if we have people who are remote and things like this, or in fact, they're not remote, right? Because it's the opposite of remote. Remote is getting up and driving somewhere. Now we're distributed and things are great. But so we have to think of ways. So how can we engage our team? How can we do things, assuming that we'll have... one of the problems, next week we're running an event and we have the first showing in Asia it's going to be 2 a.m. We have one person in Singapore. Then we've got later on in the day here, then we've got North America. Like, we're not geared for that as our business is now. So we've got to change our makeup. And what I don't want to have is the one person in Singapore currently, who's a full-time staff member, feeling like they have a different experience at the office just because they can't be at the office. They have an experience at work. So they shouldn't be second-class citizens. And here's the thing. So I've been remote for years. I live in Cape Town. I've been remote for years and I've hated it because I didn't feel like part of it's kind of like I'm a bit of a shit. When it was just me outside the party, it was really horrible. But when everybody was outside the party, it was amazing. So now I just want everyone to stay. I'm much less lonely now. So I'm not letting them back in the door.
Interesting.
So, Rich, there's a company in Tanzania called Empower that can help you maintain your culture.
Yes, I'll be reaching out.
Figured this out.
If you ask for it, I'll share. Yeah.
So I think, Miranda, thank you very much for your time. I think to close out, like, what for you has been the most surprising thing about this entire experience?
The most surprising thing, I think, personally, has been that you can control fear, and fear is poison, I think. I've never really had to live in a situation where I've been faced with fear or around an environment where the energy is quite negative, which has been caused because of COVID. And whether that's sitting with my dad who's watching CNN on repeat and watching all those figures and the death toll, and what effect that has on the psyche, your mental health, and therefore how you're able to produce and just be in the world. So the power of fear and not allowing it to get the better of you.
I think that's such a cool note to end the podcast on. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks,
that was great.
Mic drop.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. It's been great. Hope you guys will come visit Tanzania once the borders reopen.
Yeah, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma is going to let us out in August 2027.
But you'll be able to smoke.
The first South African will
smoking just as a protest.
If I don't see you in person, I'll see you on the MEPA quiz. That's a lot of fun.
Awesome, I believe so. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So,
all the best.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to do our outro, Richie. Just trying to hang up on us.
This has been a presentation of the Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yes, now thank the sponsors.
No, you do the heavy lifting, Ross. I can remember everything. Ross has a piece of paper.
So you've been listening to RadEO, and if you enjoyed this conversation and the gems that Miranda shared with us, we ask that you share it with somebody else, because I think one of the best things about EO is the amount that you learn just by hearing from other people's experience, and if you can pass that on, it's a great gift. And if you are an entrepreneur and you're looking for a bit of support, go to eonetwork.org. There's so much in this place for you. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace out.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.